I've been married to her for 8 years, together for 12, and until recently I would have sworn we were boring in the good way. Shared routines, inside jokes, fights that burned hot and fizzled fast. Lately though, something felt off, not dramatic, just sharp around the edges. She'd snap over nothing, correct me in that condescending tone she uses when she wants to feel smarter, and accuse me of being paranoid whenever I asked simple questions. The first real crack showed up in small, ugly moments. Her phone never left her hand anymore. Passwords changed. Late nights that didn't add up. She suddenly cared a lot about how she looked to go run errands, but rolled her eyes if I suggested a date night. When I tried to talk about it, she laughed and told me I was insecure, which somehow hurt more than yelling would've. I remember thinking, maybe this is just a phase. Stress at work, burnout, whatever. I told myself that marriages go through weird seasons. What I didn't realize then was that this wasn't a season, it was the calm before everything detonated at once. The thing that really stuck in my head wasn't even big at the time. It was a Tuesday. Completely forgettable. She came home late, tossed her bag down, and went straight to the shower without saying a word. No kiss. No complaint. No story about traffic or work, which was unusual because she loves to vent. Her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while the water was running. Just a single notification, screen down, buzzing like it was urgent. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The way she suddenly shut the bathroom door, actually locked it, told me more than the screen ever could. When she came out, she was defensive before I even opened my mouth. What? She snapped. I hadn't said anything. That's when the pit formed in my stomach. People don't preemptively defend themselves unless they're already guilty of something. I asked her why she'd been so distant lately. She sighed dramatically and said I was imagining problems again, that work was exhausting, that I was smothering her. Then she flipped it around, accusing me of not trusting her, of trying to control her. The conversation ended with her storming into the bedroom and slamming the door. I sat there alone, staring at the dark TV screen, realizing I'd just been trained not to ask questions. And that's when it hit me, whatever was going on, she was actively hiding it. 2 days later, everything sped up. She asked me to grab her laptop from the car because it was too heavy, which in hindsight is almost funny. I brought it inside, set it on the table, and the screen woke up before it fully closed. An open chat window. Not locked. Not minimized. Just there, like the universe got tired of subtlety. I wasn't snooping. I didn't have to. The last message was still glowing on the screen, I miss you already. Last night felt real. No emojis. No jokes. Intimate in the quietest, most damning way. My hands started shaking so badly I had to sit down. I scrolled once. Just once. Enough to see photos, nothing explicit, but close enough. Her smile in them wasn't the one she gives me anymore. It was softer. Easier. Like she wasn't constantly annoyed by the person on the other side of the camera. She walked into the room mid-scroll. Froze. For half a second, she looked terrified. Then her face hardened. She slammed the laptop shut and immediately went on the attack, accusing me of violating her privacy, of looking for reasons to be upset. That's when I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. Innocent people don't react like cornered animals. And suddenly, all those little moments from the past few months snapped into place like broken glass, forming a picture I never wanted to see. She didn't apologize. Not even close. She paced the room like I was the problem, throwing out explanations faster than I could process them. It was a coworker. Then an old friend. Then somehow both, depending on which sentence she was in. She said the messages were taken out of context, that I didn't see the whole conversation, that I was jumping to conclusions. I asked her one simple question: did you sleep with him? She laughed. Actually laughed. Shook her head like I was a child asking where babies come from. You're being dramatic, she said. God, you always do this. Then she changed tactics. Tears. Loud, messy sobbing that came out of nowhere. She said she felt lonely, unappreciated, that I'd been emotionally unavailable for years, that this person just listened to her. According to her, nothing physical had happened, but somehow she also admitted they'd been alone together multiple times. When I pointed out the contradiction, she snapped that I was twisting her words. I could feel my anger boiling, but underneath it was something worse, confusion. She spoke with such confidence, such irritation at being questioned, that for a split second I wondered if I was overreacting. That's the dangerous part of lying well, it makes the truth feel unstable. By the end of the night, she stormed out to cool off, leaving me in a house that suddenly felt like I was living in someone else's mistake. She didn't come home that night. No call. No text. Just silence stretching until morning, each minute pressing harder on my chest. When she finally walked in around 9 a.m., she smelled like a different soap. That detail still makes my stomach turn. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just asked where she'd been. She rolled her eyes and said she stayed at a friend's place. When I asked which friend, she hesitated just a fraction of a second too long, then named someone I knew was out of town. I told her that. She snapped back that I was stalking her social media now, that I was obsessed. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen and went pale. Declined the call instantly. I asked who it was. No one. I asked again. She screamed that I was interrogating her, that this was exactly why she didn't feel safe talking to me. And in that moment, through the yelling and deflection, she accidentally said his name. Just once. Slipped out like it had been rehearsed 1,000 times and forgot to stay hidden. The room went dead quiet. I said the name back to her, slowly. She stopped moving. Her face changed, not panic, not anger, resignation. Like someone who realizes the game is finally over. She didn't confess right away. She tried one last lie. But it was weaker. Thinner. And I could feel something inside me cracking, because even before she admitted anything, I already knew I was married to someone who could look me in the eyes and rewrite reality without blinking. Once the name was out, everything unraveled fast. She sat down like she was exhausted by my persistence, rubbed her temples, and said, "Fine. You want the truth?" That sentence still echoes in my head, because it implied I'd been denying it, not her. She admitted they'd been seeing each other for a few weeks. Then corrected herself to a month. Then said time didn't matter because it wasn't serious. According to her, it just happened. No planning. No intent. Just two people who connected. She said it with this smug calm, like she was explaining a movie plot instead of dismantling our life. I asked again if they'd slept together. She hesitated. Looked away. Said, it wasn't like that. I waited. She sighed and said yes, but only once. Only because she was emotional. Only because she didn't think I'd ever find out. Each sentence came with a qualifier, as if reducing the number of times somehow reduced the damage. When I asked if she'd stopped, she said yes. Immediately. Then admitted they still talked. Then admitted they'd met up again. Not that way, she insisted, offended I'd even ask. By the time she finished, the truth was so chopped up by lies and excuses that it barely resembled honesty. I realized she wasn't confessing, she was negotiating. And I was sitting there, numb, trying to understand how the person I trusted most had turned into someone I didn't recognize at all. Something snapped after that. Up until then, I'd been weirdly calm, like my brain was buffering. But once I realized she was still minimizing, still protecting him more than me, the anger came in a rush. I told her to stop lying. Just stop. I said I didn't care anymore how many times, how long, or how meaningless it was, I just wanted the full truth for once. She scoffed and said, "You're not exactly innocent in all this," which felt like getting punched in the throat. She brought up every argument we'd ever had. Every time I worked late. Every time I was tired. Somehow, her cheating was now a symptom of my failures. When I raised my voice, she smirked and told me I was proving her point. that I was emotionally unsafe. That word unsafe set me off. I slammed my hand on the table, not to scare her, but because I needed to feel something solid. She flinched anyway and immediately accused me of being aggressive. Suddenly, I wasn't the betrayed husband, I was the villain in her story. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. Sat in my car for an hour, shaking, staring at nothing. I realized then how dangerous this was, not just the affair, but the way she twisted reality. The betrayal wasn't only physical. It was psychological. And it was eating me alive. I thought finding out would be the worst part. I was wrong. The days after were a slow, grinding torture. She acted like nothing had really changed. Made coffee. Asked what I wanted for dinner. Got irritated when I didn't play along. Every attempt I made to talk seriously ended the same way. She'd either shut down completely or explode, accusing me of punishing her by being distant. When I asked for transparency, phones, messages, anything, she said trust doesn't work like that. The irony didn't seem to register. I barely slept. My mind replayed everything on a loop, the messages, the lies, the way she said his name without thinking. I started questioning my own memories. Was she always this cruel? Or did I just never notice because I was too busy believing in us? One night I woke up and realized she wasn't in bed. I found her on the couch, phone tilted away from me, smiling at the screen. When she noticed me, the smile vanished instantly. She said she couldn't sleep. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I didn't need another lie. That's when the sadness set in. Heavy, suffocating. Not just because she cheated, but because I was grieving someone who was still alive, still walking around our house like she hadn't already left me behind. Clarity came from the stupidest place. I was looking for a charger in her car and opened the center console. There was a receipt folded into quarters. Hotel. Local. Date stamped from the night she'd stayed at a friend's. I didn't feel shock this time. Just this cold, hollow calm. Like my body had finally accepted what my mind had been resisting. All the half-truths lined up perfectly. The soap. The missing night. The way she defended him harder than she ever defended us. When I showed it to her, she didn't even try to deny it. She sighed, annoyed, and said I shouldn't have been going through her things. That told me everything I needed to know. No remorse. Just irritation at being caught again. She admitted they'd been together more than once. That it had been fun. That she hadn't planned on leaving me but also hadn't planned on stopping. She said this with the same tone she'd used to complain about bad service at a restaurant. Something inside me finally shut off. The love didn't explode or fade, it just went quiet. I saw her clearly then, not confused, not lonely, not a victim of circumstance. Just someone who wanted what she wanted and didn't care who got hurt along the way. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. I didn't confront her right away after that. I needed space, not from her noise, but from my own emotions. I slept in the guest room. Started going on long walks just to breathe. She noticed, of course, and suddenly now she wanted to talk. She said she felt me pulling away. Said it hurt. Said she was scared of losing me. The irony almost made me laugh. When I asked if she'd stopped seeing him, she said she needed time to figure out her feelings. That was the moment the last thread snapped. I told her I wasn't waiting around while she decided whether I was enough. I said I deserved honesty, respect, and effort, things she'd been giving freely to someone else. She called me dramatic. Said I was throwing away years over a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. It was a series of choices. Repeated, defended, and hidden. That night, I started looking at apartments. I didn't tell her. I didn't threaten. I just quietly made a decision for myself. For the first time since all this started, I felt something close to control. Not over her, but over my own life. The shift was immediate once she realized I was serious. Not emotional serious, but logistical serious. Boxes showing up. Papers printed. My clothes disappearing from the closet. Suddenly, she was nice. Soft voice. Careful words. She apologized for the pain, not the actions. Said she'd cut him off. Said she'd do counseling. Said she never meant to hurt me. All the things you say when the floor starts dropping out from under you. I asked to see her phone. She hesitated. That was my answer. When she finally handed it over, messages were deleted. Gaps everywhere. She swore it was to protect us from more pain. I handed the phone back. Told her it was too late for damage control. That's when the anger returned, sharper than before. She accused me of giving up, of not fighting for the marriage. Said if I really loved her, I'd try harder. I realized then that in her mind, love meant enduring whatever she did without consequence. I stopped arguing. Stopped explaining. I told her I was leaving at the end of the week. And for the first time, she cried without trying to weaponize it. But even then, it felt less like grief and more like losing a possession she thought would always stay. Moving out was surreal. No yelling. No last-minute confessions. Just boxes, empty drawers, and the echo of a life I was dismantling piece by piece. She hovered, pretending to be helpful, asking where things went, like this was a temporary inconvenience. The first night alone in the apartment was brutal. The silence was loud. No familiar sounds, no shared routines. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and felt everything I'd been postponing crash down at once. The anger softened into grief. The grief turned into exhaustion. She texted me paragraphs, apologies mixed with blame, memories mixed with guilt. Then anger. Then apologies again. I stopped responding. Every message felt like another attempt to pull me back into her chaos. In the quiet, something unexpected happened. I started sleeping. Not well, but better. I started eating without feeling sick. The constant tension in my chest eased just a little. It dawned on me that I hadn't felt peaceful in my own home for a long time, and now, even in this empty place, I finally did. That's when I understood, leaving didn't break me. Staying would have. The weeks after were about survival at first. I kept busy on purpose at work, gym, errands, anything to avoid sitting too long with my thoughts. When things slowed down, the memories crept in. Good ones. That was the hardest part. Not the betrayal, but mourning the version of her I thought existed. She reached out less over time. When she did, the tone had changed again. Cold. Distant. Like I was now the one who betrayed her by refusing to come back. That stung, but it also confirmed I made the right choice. Accountability was never coming. I started therapy. I hated the idea, but I needed someone to help me untangle the mess she left in my head. The self-doubt. The gaslighting. The way I'd learned to second-guess my instincts. Slowly, I started trusting myself again. One day, I realized I hadn't thought about him, the other guy, in hours. Then days. The obsession faded. What remained was clarity. I wasn't discarded because I was lacking. I was betrayed because she chose selfishness over honesty. That realization didn't fix everything, but it gave me a foundation to stand on. And for the first time, the future didn't feel like something to fear. Acceptance came quietly. No dramatic moment. Just a morning where I woke up and didn't feel the urge to check my phone or replay old conversations in my head. The anger was still there, but it no longer controlled me. People asked if I'd forgiven her. I hadn't. I still don't know if I ever will. But I learned forgiveness isn't required to move on. Letting go doesn't mean excusing what happened, it means refusing to carry it forever. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently. That question only exists to give cheaters a softer place to land. I showed up. I asked questions. I tried to communicate. Her choices were her own. When the divorce paperwork finally came through, I expected to feel destroyed. Instead, I felt steady. Sad, yes, but grounded. Like I was closing a book that had already ended badly, even if I loved the beginning. Acceptance, I learned, isn't about peace. It's about clarity. And clarity is enough to keep moving forward. If you're reading this and something in your life feels off, don't ignore it just because facing the truth feels terrifying. Your instincts exist for a reason. Love shouldn't require you to shrink, doubt yourself, or accept lies as the price of staying. I learned that betrayal doesn't always arrive with drama. Sometimes it shows up as disrespect, deflection, and someone rewriting reality while daring you to challenge it. Pay attention to patterns, not promises. Most of all, understand this: choosing yourself isn't selfish. Staying with someone who keeps hurting you doesn't make you loyal, it makes you available for more damage. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it's the first honest thing you do after being lied to for too long. I didn't come out of this stronger overnight. But I came out clearer. And clarity, painful as it is, beats living in a lie every single time.